Welcome to the 3 Knockdown Rule. Starring Mario Lopez and Steve Kim. Presented by Hustler Casino.
Gentlemen, the 3 Knockdown Rule is in effect. It's an evergreen edition. I'm Steve Kim, joined by Mario Lopez. And Mr. Lopez, a return of a very special guest.
Yes, I don't care what you say about him. I really like him, Kim. The editor of Ring Magazine, Mr. Doug Fischer. What's going on,
Hey,
Doug?
what's up, guys? What's up?
Hey. Although I should be mad at Doug because he treats me like the neighbor's kid.
We'll get into that later.
We'll get into that later. I'll tell you why.
All right, before we get started, folks, are you excuse me, we just want you to know this podcast is sponsored by Hustler Casino, open 24/7 and located just 15 minutes from downtown LA. If you love poker, then head over to Hustler Casino for the new Cash is King poker cash drawings happening every Monday. They're giving away a whopping $1,000 cash every other hour from 2 p.m. to 10 p.m. Play at Hustler Casino, located just 15 minutes from downtown LA if you want to win big.
Doug. I don't know. Kim was coming in all nervous and stuff. I don't know. He was doing a dramatic pause. Exactly, man. Hey, first of all, I just want to say last time I saw you, all seriousness, we were in Saudi Arabia.
That's right.
Yeah. And it was quite the event out there announcing the partnership with, that's right.
Here
we go.
We were in Riyadh for the rematch between Alexander Usyk and Tyson Fury.
Correct. And prior to the fight, it was sort of a big
relaunch
party for Ring Magazine. Yeah. And you, sir, gave a great speech up there.
Thank you.
And it was nice. I was proud of you and was happy to see it. And a nice shout out to Kim right there. I thought that was pretty cool.
Thank you.
And I'm excited about the future, the magazine, this relationship with His Excellency and his involvement now. And I know we're going to get into TKO a little bit later.
Sure.
Well, what was it like? Just jumping into what's going on right now. What was it like emceeing the Fatal Fury presser in New York?
I didn't know I was going to do it until like 2 hours prior.
Hey, that's like Broadway. You're on, kid.
We're having a late morning meeting with His Excellency at the hotel that we stayed at. He had like an entire floor, and you had to like go down to the front desk to get clearance to get to that floor.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and literally that entire week in New York City, round-the-clock meetings about future fights, future ventures, future partnerships. Some of them were made public, like the partnership between His Excellency and Dana White and Nick Khan and TKO and that whole thing. And others, you just got little hints of it. If you follow him on social media, you'll see a picture of him standing next to Shaquille O'Neal and him standing next to Tom Brady.
Right, I saw that. I'm like, damn, is he getting in a video by a team? What's going on?
Him standing next to the director, Zack Snyder.
Right.
And I don't know if you guys are familiar with the legendary photographer and director, David LaChapelle.
That's right, yes.
Yeah, big things. The wonderful thing for us, Ring Magazine, he's talking to them about all kind of long-range plans and stuff with Riyadh season and Saudi Arabia and, football leagues and basketball leagues and, the stuff that he's done with like golf and tennis and soccer and snooker. That's popular in the UK and over there.
Very popular.
He wants to do that with more American sports. So he's talking to these icons, and it's amazing to be a fly on the wall and see how these guys conduct themselves. It's really, that they have to be at least somewhat business savvy to be as successful as they are, and obviously intelligent in terms of the sports that they play and the roles that they had in those various franchises and championship teams. But they have an intelligence, like this emotional intelligence, to read the room in a different way that it was surprising pleasantly so, especially Tom Brady. Like that dude, whatever it is, like he's one of them dudes, he walks in a room, he shakes everybody's hand, looks you right in the eye, makes you feel like the most important person in the universe, and then sits down and like he's got like an aura, but he's also just one of the guys or the boy next door or your next door neighbor or that kind of, he's got that thing going for him. So it was really interesting to see how these different people talk business, talk long-range plans, get a real kick out of His Excellency because he gets fired up just talking about his stuff. But the brilliant thing for us, for Ring Magazine, my staff, my team, is that all of these mega players are going to have some role with Ring Magazine starting this year. They're going to do some kind of project. You may not see it until next year, okay? But all of them are going to be doing things involved with upcoming boxing events, but Ring Magazine is also tied in with that. So that's like, you talk about next level.
Incredibly exciting, man.
Yeah. And I got to tell you, like, when I first became editor-in-chief of Ring, there were some publishing companies that reached out to me about doing a book, doing like a hardcover coffee table book, especially in anticipation of the 100-year anniversary. And they were some good companies, like very well-known, reputable, award-winning publishing companies. And I thought, this is great. I hope we're able to get it across the finish line. We weren't, not because of us, but because of other things. But in the back of my mind, I kept thinking to myself, the dream would be to have somebody like David LaChapelle kind of spearhead a project like this with his eye for design and photography and his sensibilities, but also his connections in the publishing world. And I'm not going to name the publisher. You probably know, but there's like a publisher that is the pinnacle of art books, design books, photography books, like the pinnacle. Like they publish books that cost $10,000. You know what I mean? And the first thing this dude said, LaChapelle, when he sat down, is like, I can bring in this publisher. I'm just like, oh my God, this is a dream.
Power moves.
This is a freaking dream. Like I fantasized about this in 2018. So
manifested it.
So good thing. So anyways, back to the press conference. Didn't know I was doing it. They're looking at what I have on. I'm like wearing something like this, and they're like, "You brought some dress clothes." And I'm like, not really. They're like,
Did you go shopping?
Yeah. Snaps his fingers. Dude comes in, just looks at me like, okay, and then tells a lady to go to Bloomingdale's. Comes back. Oh. Armani suit.
Dang, not even Macy's, like straight Bloomingdale's.
You got to keep it too.
Within the hour, and it fit.
Dang.
It fit perfectly.
And you kept it.
Of course.
Oh, that's great.
Of course,
No returning.
Yeah.
No returning.
So whatever. But they had people coming up there, including fighters, and they wanted me to interview the fighters. There was Canelo Alvarez. There was Terrence Crawford who was in town. Obviously, there was Ryan and Devin Haney, and they're talking long-range plans. But those guys, and they're like, Doug, interview them before they go. We want to get you on camera. And I'm like, I know how producers are. They're going to want me, at the Palladium at least 1 hour in advance, at least 30 minutes within advance. No. Come on, let's do this real quick. We do this. Long story short, I'm crammed in an Uber with Rick Reno and a couple executives of His Excellency. We get there maybe 15 minutes before 3 o'clock, before it starts. Literally, I get on stage like when Michael Buffer's up there. Like 5 minutes before he introduces Doug Fischer, I just kind of walk up on there. And I did what I do. And folks liked it, but immediately after, Eric Gomez comes up and said, "Hey, Doug, good job, but you got to give it a little more oomph. You got to sell it. You got to have more energy, man. You got to we want these guys to go at each other." And I'm like, I just expected Ryan and Rolly to go at it because that's how they are. That's they're wired like that. I knew Teofimo was going to keep it weird because he was like, "I'm going to bring balance to this three-dimensional world," and I'm like, "Okay, you're on brand."
Wait, is he Aaron Rodgers?
I'm like, okay,
Teo weirdo.
It doesn't mean anything in our world, Teo, but I know it means something in your world, and you're in your world, and that's all good. But everybody else, you know what? I kind of set a subdued tone. Because, and this is what I told Eric, I said, I'm not a game show host. Like, you want that kind of host energy. You need a Mario Lopez. You need a Beto Duran. You need a Todd Grisham. You need folks who kind of have that entertainment industry vibe and understanding. And it's a skill. It's a skill set. It's a talent that you have. I admit, I don't have that. I'm the geek behind the laptop. So I don't have that talent. I said, I'm gonna bring school teacher energy because I'm looking at these folks and I'm looking at Jose Ramirez and I'm like, you're shy, you're understated by nature. If I don't give you equal time, Teofimo's not going to give you that equal time. Teofimo is that hyperactive kid who just might be a genius in the class, and you want him to be himself, but you can't let him impede the education of everybody else. So knowing that Devin's a bit shy and Jose's a bit shy, I kind of had to handcuff Teo, and I got some stick on social media. People like, let him talk, let him be himself. I'm like, we had 30 minutes. There was supposed to be 10 minutes allocated for each matchup. There's 3 matchups. It's 5 minutes apiece. I'm not going to let Teo have more than anybody else, which is probably why Todd Grisham hosted the Los Angeles match. And they're like, let's let it get crazy, but regardless, it was, I'm born in New York. I love New York City. It was a thrill to be up there and then just be a part of it.
Awesome.
You know who's not shy? Bill Haney. I mean, we saw that in L.A.
You know what? They probably should have had the dads if they really wanted that kind of energy and like that antagonistic, that aggression and that animosity. Have Teofimo Sr. and Bill Haney up there.
Yeah. So I have a question about the logistics of the event, which I love the idea of it being a spectacle on Cinco de Mayo
Unprecedented.
weekend.
Never done before.
Yeah, I'm surprised the city is allowed because I'm assuming there's going to be tickets sold around ringside.
No, don't assume that. Don't assume that.
No tickets sold. Pardon me. There will be
They're
tickets.
not shutting down. It's I can't divulge too
that's
much.
That's going to
They're
be.
going to have a block. They're going to act. They're going to block off where there will be seats. There will be like bleachers.
That's what I meant. There's a blocked off area because
but that's VIP.
Correct. Because I've hosted. New Year's
all
Eve
those
there.
people that were meeting with His Excellency.
Yeah.
He's like, I want you to be my guest.
No, exactly.
So that's who's going to be seated.
Well, the
there.
reason I say that is because I've been right at the heart of the city for a few years, and I've hosted the New Year's Eve, and so there is some sort of semblance, and the NYPD is pretty good about that. You would think it'd be pretty crazy. Yeah. And I also host every year the Christmas tree lighting over there.
Right.
So, believe it or not, I think they can pull it off because a lot of people are thinking it's going to be chaotic, but they're on point over there with the NYPD. We only have 10,000 LAPD officers. They have over 40,000 in New York. And
the finest.
And we're way spread out too.
And His
right?
Excellency had to
condensed.
get permits from
them and everybody else.
I mean, it's a lot of bureaucracy.
So you have the section for the VIPs, and then
but streets are not going to be blocked
that's
off.
What I was
Sidewalks are not going to be blocked off.
Other than that, it's just the public.
Everything's going to be moving.
Wow, that's wild.
And for multiple hours, those fights, they're going to be on those gigantic screens, those jumbotrons.
Dude, there's bars all around there. You let people. It's going to be
bonkers
people are
going to stop
people
and watch and be like, "Oh, boxing!"
Yeah. I also think there's going to be chingazos on the street.
Right.
Chingazos.
I didn't think about that.
There's going to be guys dressed up as Tickle Me Elmo going to be doing their business, get a drink at Jimmy's Corner. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Oh yeah.
Doug, when you got this job, because you look, I assume you thought, hey, I'm going to put together the best magazine possible. We're going to evolve this thing.
And we have stepped
editorially
it up.
from an art form perspective.
Yes.
But did you realize two things? Number one, you're going to be traveling as much as you are and have. And number two, did you know that Turkey was going to include you in a lot of these meetings?
No.
That's awesome,
I thought I would just be focusing on the magazine. I thought I would be traveling for big events, not like every event, because since September, since September, I've been to London twice, and I'll be returning next month. I've been to Riyadh twice. Obviously I've traveled to Vegas a couple of times. Traveled to New York City, so in just a short amount of time, I'm racking up the miles.
You're racking up the
frequent
miles,
flyer miles now, and believe me, I'm joining all these frequent flyer mile programs.
Does he ever ask you for your input during these meetings suddenly?
Sometimes, yeah.
Oh, wow. Really?
That's awesome.
Absolutely.
That's awesome, man. You should feel very
I do.
blessed and honored. That's really cool.
I do. But I try to be low key about it. Like, he had Rick Reno and I, who's the COO, and he's in charge of the website, travel with him to the Canelo Alvarez, the Alvarez-Williams Skull press conference at Radio City Music Hall. And we sat with him, and I'm like, crap. Not that I don't mind sitting with His Excellency, because he's fun, you know. But it's when they see you next to this the power broker, like #1 in the world. Now everybody's calling you and emailing you and texting you and WhatsApping you for favors. Or, you know, can you put a good word in for me? Or I have this idea, or I have this company, and you have this, and I'm just like, I'm an editor, man. You know, send me your article, I'll fix it up. You know what I mean? Pitch me your story, we might run it. You know what I mean? That's what I want to deal. I don't want to deal with all this stuff.
So do you still have time to actually manage the magazine?
Yeah, but I wouldn't have done this if #1, if certain people weren't available to come back to the magazine, like Tom Gray, the managing editor.
Right.
He was working for the Sporting News, and he'd been with them a couple of years since the magazine had been out of print. I needed him back because you need somebody to manage.
Yeah.
But I needed Tom Gray, Brian Hardy, a senior editor. You're very familiar with Brian. Brilliant dude, kind of reclusive, he's just about the quality of the articles and the design and the photos to an insane point. But you kind of need somebody that constantly pushes the bar higher, right? And then the guy who designs it, Lamar Clark, and Deborah Harrison, who's like the publishing side. Very important. I needed that group. If I didn't have that team, I wouldn't do it, because I want to do it right, and I know they can do the job. So they all got hired. They got hired, substantial raises. We're off to the races. We hit the ground running.
Yeah, I mean, it's important to be able to have people you can trust that you're going to, delegate these things to.
Welcome to the big leagues, kid.
$1.2 million.
And I'm losing in this fucking game. What the fuck?
There's a 400K flip. If I win by the way, you get 10 grand.
Fucking straddle!
For my fans!
Wow. All in a call.
I'm not fucking leaving!
Raise it up.
What's up, guys? Mystic Zach here to give my weekly prediction here on the 3 Knockdown Rule podcast. This upcoming Saturday, we've got a lightweight bout going down between Tevin Farmer and William Zepeda. William Zepeda, the younger fighter here, coming at 28 years old. Farmer, 34 years old. This is a rematch. They fought last November. It was a great fight. It was much closer than people anticipated. Tevin Farmer went toe-to-toe with William Zepeda, including largely dominating the first half of the fight. He was able to secure a knockdown, hurt Zepeda pretty regularly, but Zepeda found his rhythm and was able to eke out a split decision victory. What sets Zepeda apart is his pace, his conditioning, his punch output. He punches and bunches. He never gets tired. That was a 10-round fight. He threw hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of punches. Farmer, slick southpaw, heavy-handed. I think if he was really able to sit down his punches more, maybe could have gotten the finish. But clearly, Zepeda and his team are confident in the rematch as they're accepting it only 4 short months later. Tevin Farmer, much better than people thought the last time, though. This time, I see Zepeda making the same adjustments he did in the second half of the fight, but much earlier. I think he's going to put on a hellacious pace against Tevin Farmer. I think the fact that it's 12 rounds suits him well, and I like William Zepeda here to pick up a decision victory. If you want all of my weekly picks, you've got to tune in right here on the 3 Knockdown Rule podcast.
I want to get your thought, because you brought it up a second ago, on the Turkey Dana White alliance with TKO Boxing, which I'm sure you knew what was happening.
Definitely, that news moved the needle, didn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because I happened to be with Dana this past weekend at the UFC event, and he's like, "Yeah, it's happening. We're still kind of figuring it out."
Yeah. That's my thing. I was thinking about, okay, I'm going to write about this for my column in the next magazine. And then I'm like, wait a minute.
What am
I don't know anything beyond an announcement.
Exactly. That's like, what am I writing about?
I'm just going to
Exactly.
speculate like everyone else is doing. And I see, and that's fine to speculate. That's natural.
Sure.
But I see people speculating and they're just emotional and there's all this angst and there's these fears and
Paranoia.
defensiveness, paranoia. And I'm like, wait, we
Paranoia.
don't know anything, man.
Right.
Like Dana's got to put his team together. He has to have the right team. I mean, his hands are rather full with the UFC
And the slap league.
and the slap league.
A bunch of other stuff
I'm not
he's got
saying
going
he
on.
won't be deeply involved in TKO boxing,
If
that
not-
vertical, but he's going to need somebody to be like an executive director
absolutely.
and that kind of
and
stuff.
I'm sure you know, Doug, boxing is his
You need
first love.
matchmakers. You need.
Right, no,
oh,
of
I know,
course.
I know.
But
yeah.
boxing is his first love. It's
That's
not something
true.
he just wants to.
I know that.
He's just. It's not an arbitrary thing. He's just sort of diving into. He loves it. I've been. With
I
him at,
like that.
I've been with him at fights.
Yeah.
At UFC fights where he has a monitor right here with a boxing match going.
Oh,
on.
no, I know
Whether
that.
it was Canelo, whether it was
I
you
know
know what I
that.
mean, a couple times, and he's like watching his fight.
Sure.
But he's really watching the
Because he's a
boxing.
fan.
He's a fan.
He's a fan.
So,
No
which I
matter
think-
how much he criticizes the industry,
Correct.
and the,
He's a
and the
fan of
power
sport.
brokers of boxing of the last 20 years, and there's a lot to criticize. He's a fan at heart.
Yeah.
And I
Which
like
I think
that.
means a lot.
I like that he knows good boxing people from like every level. He knows who the good matchmakers are. He knows who the good promoters are. He knows who the good trainers are. He knows. I mean, that's one thing I noticed about UFC when they started hiring boxing guys to wrap hands and handle the cuts.
Yeah.
They knew exactly who to go to.
Absolutely.
Remember Leon Tabs?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that
God
is
rest his soul.
that is an old Philly, dyed in the wool boxing guy.
When I was at the
Dana
last-
knew to brought that dude over.
Yeah, and when I was at the last fight too, Mark Ratliff was there, and he goes,
Ratner.
partner. I'm
Yep.
sorry, Ratner. He's like, looks like we're getting back in the game. He's saying so. Ratner's
And
obviously an old-time
Ratner's
guy.
a dude who knows boxing.
Ratner's a
You
dude
know-
who
and he
knows
did
boxing.
a great job with the Nevada State Athletic
Exactly.
Well, Doug, what I found interesting about the reaction was all of a sudden this defense of the status quo, as if somehow boxing was in a great place. Now,
Right.
We took a,
Right.
We took a little bit of heat because about 3 years ago, I wrote a cover story called "Boxing is Broken."
Yeah.
And because a couple of fights that we featured as not happening suddenly happened, everyone thought, "See, it's not broken." And I'm thinking,
No, those fights were still 5 years too late.
Right, one
that
of them
was
was,
what
right.
you were. That's what you were saying.
And
it's taking too long for fights that are just natural matchups to happen.
And we have to be honest about this. And I hear people say, "Well, this fight happened. This fight. See, it's not broken." And they list Usyk Fury. That wouldn't have happened without Turki Al-Sheikh. Beterbiev Bivol, guess what? Would not have happened without
That's
Turki
Riyadh season.
Al-Sheikh.
That's Riyadh
There's
season.
a division within the game. There's also, and no matter who's in charge and no matter what system will be in place in 3 to 5 years, right? No system can work with the amount of inactivity we see at the top level of boxing.
And to piggyback on your point, those fights that did happen because of His Excellency, who's obviously now involved in TKO, that's the thing with UFC is that we get Usyk Fury just about every week.
Yeah.
We get Crawford Spence. We see number 1 and number 2 in the UFC every week.
Yeah,
and that's
he's
why
big on
people
that.
that's why the card, more bang for your buck, really, when you tune in, if you're going to invest in combat sports. So if you can get a little bit of that, and I realize that means changing a lot of the mentality because you got a lot of these fighters, Doug. I don't know how much you watch MMA, but they've got a lot of losses. But it doesn't matter. The fans don't care because they know they're match tough.
Right.
Every single. So of course you're going to have a loss.
And here's the thing: we need to look at the performance. We really do. We need to look don't just look at W's and L's.
Right.
Or
Context.
draws.
Context matters.
Context
and
matters.
nuance.
Yeah.
Well, here's another thing. Now we need the sanctioning bodies. Now, hold on. As the guy that came up with the hashtag belts matter, I kind of get it. But this sudden defense of the belts from the very same people who for years probably said it'd be great to have just one champion in each division. I'm fair about it. I actually don't know if a one belt or one champion per division system works with this type of inactivity.
That's one thing.
Because if you're the 6th best guy in a division and there's one belt, you're like, oh my God, is that 4 years for me to get a shot? So you have to be able to marry that together and come
right.
within that
Belts do matter.
middle
Well,
ground.
belts do matter.
Again, on that point, one thing that I did have a discussion with him about is that he was pretty much like, and it's not a fair comparison, but much like Slap League and UFC are the original 8 weight classes in boxing. So I'm curious to see. I don't know if he'll change it because if it's the original 8 they're going to do with that league, that kind of changes a lot.
Yeah, I don't think. I mean,
It'd be tough,
I
but-
think they're going to focus on key glamour divisions. I think they're going to look at welterweight, middleweight, heavyweight. Maybe they toss in light heavyweight there. Maybe there's lightweight if there's enough talent.
Well, you just
if there's
listed
a
the
bright
original
enough-
eight.
I know.
Basically,
But they're not talking about like restructuring. I'm just saying like those are the divisions that they're going to look for talent and look to cultivate talent.
Another thing that I love hearing on the internet, these promoters need to come together and work together to make sure no one takes over.
They should have did that 20 years
You're
ago.
telling me for 30 years
25
we should
years
not
ago.
have been doing this?
Right, exactly.
Because I'm the one who coined the Cold War when Golden Boy and Top Rank would not work with each other. So you could talk about a couple fights that have happened. There are about 50 fights like Nonito Donaire, Abner Mares, which never went anywhere because there was a pissing contest.
Yeah.
Look, I'm going to say this about the sanctioning bodies. I actually get along with every single person that's the head of it. I actually have good relationships. But, and I've also told them this, you guys don't follow your rules. You let fighters not defend the title for years at a time, the Charlos.
Yep.
You let guys only defend once a year for 5 years, Gary Russell. Also, you don't call your mandatories when the wrong champion that you need to be in business with. So basically, when you don't do that,
and they play favorites.
you are impacting
They have
14 other fighters in that ranking system.
They're going to treat a big name better
Canelo.
than and they align themselves with certain promotional entities.
Right.
And it's
very clear.
And that's maybe that's good business for them. It's not good for the sport.
Hot button issue this past week, and I think we've talked it to death, and I'm sure we're probably aligned on the same page. But the Tank Davis Lamont Roach fight, which turned out to be a fun, entertaining fight,
especially the second half.
Yeah, and again, props to Lamont Roach, who came there to win, did not fight intimidated.
Yeah.
We agree, should have been called a knockdown, shouldn't have been on the apron.
Yep.
Should have been maybe a win column for Roach.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I wasn't outraged with the draw because I felt over the first 6 rounds Lamont needed to do a little bit more. Because boxing is not fair. The business clearly comes before the sport, okay, in boxing. And Lamont Roach was chosen for a reason. And he has to understand that. I know he's got a fighter's pride. I know he has a belt. But he was picked for a reason, and it was not to win. He was not a mandatory challenger. He was not the public's choice. You know, the public is demanding Tank fight guys like Shakur Stevenson. Okay? He was chosen to be a credible opponent and to do just enough to make it interesting, to make it entertaining.
Well, he did
and
that.
I thought he was doing that. I'm like, you're doing just enough to lose. You have to understand that. And that's why I was overjoyed that over the second half of the fight, probably starting in round 7, when Tank tried to get a little more aggressive, that Lamont stood his ground and answered back.
Yes.
Started tagging that body, timing that right hand, sneaking that hook in there. And a funny thing happened. It was the one question, because Steve and I are very familiar with Lamont.
Called his fight.
We've called fights
For Ring
of
TV.
Lamont, right, when he was at the 6 and 8 round level. I've called fights, Lamont Roach fights in Philadelphia, in Washington, D.C., in Los Angeles, Las Vegas, even Cancun, Mexico. Okay? So, and during that time, I've watched him grow. He's a complete boxer. He's a technician. He's very smart. And he's pretty tough. The only thing that was missing from the equation was power. So, only question I had is, can he get respect?
Yeah.
Can he hurt Tank? And we didn't see it until maybe round 7 where Tank kind of had that. He was, he stumbled back. I think it was a right hand. He
Yeah.
took a right
Counter
hand and
right hand.
stumbled
He
back.
buzzed
And I'm
him. He
like,
buzzed him.
oh, okay.
Yeah.
Now we're in business. And to Lamont Roach's credit, I really thought he took over from round 7 until round 12. I wasn't scoring it because when I'm watching at home and I know I'm actively rooting for a guy, I don't score it. Because if it's close, I'm going to be like, okay, I'm going to give that to Lamont. I don't want to score fights like that. So I was just enjoying the fight. So I wasn't mad at the draw, but he should have won it because he should have been credited for a knockdown. Period.
It looks like Lamont is getting an immediate rematch, so a draw is a win in essence. And I hope he gets paid.
It's definitely a
Correct.
win.
Now-
Because, again, you look at the performance. If you didn't know who Lamont Roach was as a 130-pounder,
You know now he's a legitimate lightweight.
Doug, that's my next question. As we look at the performance, I went on the website and tell me if I'm not getting the most updated rankings. So Tank was number 1 in the Ring Magazine ratings at 35.
At lightweight, yes.
Okay. So Lamont was number 4.
At 130.
So does he move up now on the basis of that performance?
There was no, you can't move him up at 130
He can't
because
move
he
him
didn't make
130.
130 and Tank didn't make 130.
But you got to put him at 35 now, right?
There was debate.
Yeah, do we put him into 35?
They were going to put
You do.
him. They were going to put him as high as number 4 or 5 as a lightweight.
That's fair.
Yeah.
That's
But then
fair.
there were others who just they don't believe that you should be ranked in 2 weight classes, which is silly because
Sure.
it happens all the time.
Yeah,
It used to happen
absolutely.
all
Okay,
the
so
time.
but pound for pound, Tank dropped in a certain.
That's the effect of the fight is that
Yeah.
okay, Tank did enough to keep his lightweight title. And if you know, like you and I know, Lamont Roach is a credible opponent.
Yes.
For any lightweight.
Yes.
He probably was healthier weighing in at 135 than weighing at 130.
He looks
stronger.
He actually
Thank
looks bigger
you.
to me
So
than Tank, and I was
Yes.
concerned about that with the power too, because I knew in the fights that I've seen that he's a fundamentally sound guy and he could fight. But I was surprised how strong he looked. And he
Yes.
actually looked bigger than Tank. With all that said, and I'm glad to hear that the rematch looks inevitable. Do you favor him in the rematch?
yeah, I think I am going to go with him.
Favor. You're saying favor. So you're
Yeah, but I mean, just slightly.
So
I respect Tank.
No,
Yeah,
but-
and I respect Tank too.
So
and
you're
maybe-
saying he might be Vernon Forrest to his Shane Mosley?
Yes, absolutely.
I came up with that
Absolutely.
one.
That's very
Ooh,
good,
that's good,
because
that's good.
Tank is the more explosive, athletically gifted, and it's Roach, like Vernon Forrest, is the more technically sound. He has the fundamentals. That's a really good.
Ooh, that's
and Shane was very popular. Shane was number 1 pound
Yes,
for
he
pound
was.
going into that
Yes.
first fight with Vernon Forrest, and Vernon was kind of underground, and that's what Lamont is. So we didn't penalize him as a lightweight, but as a pound for pound player.
Yeah.
You're supposed to listen. Pound for pound means that's like what Alexander Usyk did against Tyson Fury,
right.
or what Naoya Inoue did against Stephen Fulton.
Yes.
You could take on a guy who, on paper, some would say is your equal in terms of accomplishments or in terms of talent and skill, and you still dominate him.
So
And Tank did not do that against Roach.
He
was
not.
taken to hell, so he dropped out.
he did not, and
Dropped out of our top 10.
And I am a fan of Tank, and
I am too.
I feel he always, and I know he's a bit of a slow starter, but he looked to leave in a little bit more. I don't know, was reluctant or just wasn't pulling the trigger enough. He may change, may come out more aggressive. Who knows? Who knows?
But
what
that
can
might
happen?
play into Lamont's hands.
It may,
Yes.
but he's
Yeah.
strong enough to ice him too. So he's got heavy enough hands to do that too. But it may be a case, like you said, Vernon Forrest, Shane Mosley, Junior Jones, Marco Antonio Pereira, Randall Chavez. You never know. Some guys may just have Marquez Pacquiao.
True.
Some guys just have your number.
You're
Some-
right.
It's just a bad style.
And
we
that's
don't know.
that's another good analogy, because Pacquiao, you got this dynamic, explosive guy
Right.
who has flaws.
Correct.
You know, has like some mental lapses
you've got a
sometimes.
technician.
And then his nemesis is the textbook technician.
The Marquez.
Very good,
exactly.
Marquez, yeah.
So you do never know.
Sometimes, these guys are the kryptonite to these like
Exactly.
explosive types.
For me,
Ken Norton, Muhammad Ali.
Very good.
all three.
I
Him
like
and
it.
all three.
I like it.
That's another one. Speaking of pound for pound, Bivol and Beterbiev just flipped 4 and 5.
Yep.
In the rankings.
And I agree with that.
Did you have Bivol winning this last fight?
I did.
What was your
Clearly.
Cool. You went clear.
116,
You went
112.
clearly. God, they were
8
so
rounds
both
to
of them were
four.
He
so
disagreed,
close.
by
Yes.
the way.
The only
I
reason
get it. I understand
it was
that.
so close. The
Yeah.
only reason, and again, I had it. I think even going into the 12th. And again, for
I
me,
can see that.
Beterbiev just closed the show a little stronger. But now, it's sometimes, when you judge someone, like when Tyson didn't knock everyone out and the guy would do a little better than expected, you're
Right.
like, oh, wow.
Oh, that's called
give him
grading
too much
on a
credit.
curve.
Grading on a curve.
Grading
I
on a
felt
curve.
like a little bit, they're both excellent,
Yeah.
obviously incredible fighters. But I almost felt like we're a little grading on a curve, but we're splitting hairs with
are,
those
yeah.
two
We
right
are.
there. So I have no problem with the 4 and 5 split. Or switch, I should say, in the pound.
Yeah,
for pound.
I wouldn't have a problem with number 4 being tied, right?
Yeah.
There's
Right.
2 guys at number 4,
Right.
and then you go to number 6.
Right. No, right.
And public service announcement again. This is not Doug Fischer's ranking personally.
No, it's a committee.
There's a
Correct,
committee.
correct.
It's
They have
democratic.
votes.
It's democratic.
So no, every time Ring Magazine has a list, Doug just gets it on Twitter. I'm like, guys, he's one voter.
Yes,
My
yes,
God,
yes.
it's not.
Yeah, who's allowed to have his opinion?
And you don't. And listen, just because you're on the panel doesn't mean you have to vote on everything or
Right.
weigh in on everything. And I often skip the pound for pound.
Do you really?
Yeah, I'm just like whatever.
I just
Because there's
think-
no criteria.
Doug-
I mean, you know what I mean? Like
I skew more towards like
your accomplishments, and other folks are like, no, you're only as good as your last fight, and other folks are, no, it's about your talent or your ability, or you know what I mean.
Should be a lot of everything.
I'm with you with the
it
accomplishments, but also activity. So for me, Usyk number 1, Inoue number 2.
I agree.
And as much as I love Crawford, and most people have
That's
number
inactivity.
3. Well, that's my point.
I mean,
because of the inactivity,
Yeah.
and I love Crawford. Because of
too.
the inactivity, he falls for me. Then I got to put Bivol Beterbiev.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then Crawford.
Ooh.
Only because of the
Interesting.
inactivity.
I'm not mad at that.
Mario-
Does that make any sort of,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
Mario-
Had he been busier, then it'd be probably different.
Yeah, and he didn't exactly dominate his last time out.
And then there's that. And then there's
Mario,
that. Exactly.
I wrote a story about 3 years ago for Ring where we talked about, because I think it's actually harder now to come up with a pound for pound list because there's no data points. Everyone fights once every 8 months.
Well, that's why I give guys like Inoue,
Right.
you know, 1-1A kind of.
Yeah.
So, Doug, it was 1993. We did like a 30-year comparison. So in 2023, the current Ring Magazine pound for pound list at that time fought a total of 18 times. So they didn't even average twice of a year.
Can you believe that?
That whole top 10.
Not even 20 fights over 10 fighters in a year's
so it's
time.
1.8
That's
average.
bad.
That's horrible.
In 1993,
James Toney.
and
Chavez.
And Chavez. They fought.
But-
At least fighting 6 times.
So
they
a
fought
year.
a total of 38 times. But get this. I know that those two
38
guys
times.
skewed the numbers, but everybody else,
At
most
least
of-
3 fights.
3 to 4, 5 fights.
So Mayweather
at
was
least
sitting
3,
right in
and
the
that's the
seat.
minimum
Right.
is 3. Yeah.
What? Just a couple days ago, Floyd was sitting here talking, and what did he say, Frazier? He fought like 17 times in a year and a half.
he did. Yeah.
17 times.
Prospects used to fight
Bro,
every
that's
month.
crazy.
Every month.
No,
and if
that's
they could,
great.
If they could fit 2 fights in 1 month, they did it.
Dude,
Think of Mario-
we're never going to see that.
No,
Mario,
because
We're
the
never gonna see that
infrastructure
again.
isn't there. There aren't enough shows.
And the
Yeah, that's sad.
contracted
And it's
minimum.
more and
it's also more exclusive.
Guys-
and these guys
are asking for more money.
Right.
Think
as
of-
soon as they turn pro.
Think about this. Oscar De La Hoya in his first 12 months fought 10 times.
Damn.
Mayweather in his first 12 months fought 11. Joel Irarte, a guy that we all like,
Yeah.
he's been pro for about a year, has 6. And I'm thinking, what are we doing?
And that's active.
that's
And that's
for
actually, I was
most
going to
young
say,
fighters.
I'm surprised it's 6.
and
Yeah.
I asked this of young managers, not the Irarte camp, and I really like those people.
yeah,
I've asked-
I met him.
Yeah.
I met him at the LA press.
great people.
Yeah, for Fatal Fury.
And Robert Diaz
Great
was
guy.
part of that team.
Yeah.
And so I asked younger managers who have fighters, and I said, well, we don't need to be that active. And I said, can I ask you something?
Wait, who? They really tell
They
you that
actually
with a
said,
straight
well,
face?
you know, we like to be rested. And I said,
They say that defiantly?
And I said, well, let me ask you something. Do you think your kid, and I hope it is for you, do you think your kid's as good as Floyd or Oscar? They're like, of course not. And I give them that stat, and their looks on their faces like, oh, really? Like they don't get it. Like there's nothing in life you get better at from doing less.
What about
That's
even
my
go
belief.
way back? This is going way back. What about Ray Robinson fighting Jake LaMotta 2 weeks later?
Yeah.
From
with
his
the
fight.
tune-up in
and
between.
fitting a fight in between.
fought
Oh
in
yeah, I
between.
forgot he fit a fight in between.
and
them.
that guy was ring ranked.
California
You're kidding.
Jackie Wilson.
That
Very
guy
good,
was,
Steve.
That guy was right.
Top 10.
Damn, that's good.
That's what I do.
Contender.
But in a 2 weeks, that's crazy though. That's
Listen,
crazy.
but you know what? That's the only way you make money back then.
Right.
The only
No
way-
TV. It's the 40s.
That's the only
Hey,
way you make
there
money
ain't no
now,
TV
though.
money.
Hold on.
There ain't no
But Doug, that's the only
it's
way you
ticket
make the money
sales, yeah.
now is
Yeah.
by fighting.
That's true.
Right, but,
That's true,
but
too.
Mario, you know what the
But
reality
you
is?
make more because of
Right,
the
but that's
TV
insane when you
money
think
and the
about it.
speculation and
Yeah.
all that.
You know what the reality is, though? Once you win a championship, your minimums go up, you cost more, and these promoters that have an exclusive deal with a network, and most of these guys aren't pay-per-view, they become a piece of that programming budget for that year. So even if you're a young fighter, let's say a Keyshawn Davis, who suddenly says, you know what, I want to go 5 times like De La Hoya in 97, the budget is not there from Top Rank with ESPN.
Yeah, the business can't sustain activity.
Yeah.
Wow.
Not,
which
not
is really
activity
sad.
as we know it.
Unless you're a
Going back to the
pay-per-view
90s
guy
and prior to that.
and you
yeah.
take your own risk, the
There
way
you go.
De La Hoya did in 97. Speaking
Right, 5 times in 97.
I want to go back just really quick because we were talking about pound for pound and Crawford based on his last performance, which got me thinking. He's obviously, it looks inevitable that he's going to be facing Canelo.
Oh yeah, September.
Ortiz.
Mark it down.
Yeah. No, I'm excited.
it's
I'm
happening.
excited. Virgil Ortiz surprised me and had a nice performance against Madrimov.
Yeah.
How does that put into perspective Crawford's performance? And I know it's his first time in that weight class, but now we're asking him to go up yet another 2 weight classes.
Yeah.
How does that factor into your view of the fight and how it'll play out?
It makes me favor Canelo Alvarez, obviously. I mean, here's the thing that I'm not sure Madrimov realized, but Madrimov hurt Crawford when he went to the body.
Yeah. Oh, we were there.
He didn't do it enough.
No, that was another thing. He just doesn't let his hands.
Madrimov marked him up when he landed that right hand. He just didn't let the hands go. That's why I favored Virgil Ortiz against Madrimov, because and prior to that, when Sergey Bohachuk was matched with Israel Madrimov, I favored Bohachuk just on activity.
Yeah. By the way,
just on
that
activity.
Bohachuk fight's looking really good, the one with Ortiz, because we actually thought Bohachuk did enough.
Yeah.
To kind of.
I had it a draw, but
And I'm not mad at a draw.
I'm not. Yeah. It's no. He had a breakout year, and Virgil did. I think the 24 rounds that Virgil went with Bohachuk and Madrimov, that's going to serve him so well.
Right.
And once Crawford leaves the division, I think Virgil Ortiz is the number 1 junior middleweight in the world.
I agree.
And he paid the cost to be that boss.
Yeah.
You know? But you know what? Going up from 154 to 168, that's a lot. But I know Crawford's up for it. I know Crawford feels good walking around at the weight he's walking around at right now. I know he's really freaking strong.
Hey,
Maybe
guys.
freakishly strong. Kind of like Shane Mosley strong.
Well, guys,
you know what
I have a question. Should Crawford pull the upset? Is he now number 1 pound for pound?
Oh, hell yeah.
Absolutely.
Oh man,
Absolutely.
no problem with
Absolutely.
that, dude. If he pulls the upset, he's Henry Armstrong.
Yeah. If you go
That's
up 2
like
weight
Armstrong
classes,
jumping from featherweight to welterweight
Yeah.
and winning that title.
And you got to go back to
his
1938
all-time-
for that.
Well, not really.
You know what I'm saying?
Pacquiao jumped up a lot.
He did. Pacquiao went from 135 to 147.
Yeah, but he
to
was at
fight-
112 originally.
Yeah,
right?
originally, but he was a
But that's what
teenager.
I'm saying.
I
But
know.
nevertheless,
Everyone points to that, but it's like Pacquiao turned pro at like 15 or 16
Right.
years old.
And it was a
He was
third world
prepubescent.
country.
No,
He's not eating
Yeah,
a
and he
lot.
was malnourished
Yeah,
too.
he's not
but
eating a lot.
no, but that's still a lot of weight.
Yeah.
No matter
No,
what
it
you
is.
cut
Yeah,
That's
when you
still a lot of
look
weight.
at it. Oh, I mean, listen, you could look at James Toney. You know, he turns pro at
Right.
like 158 or whatever, and then he's, you know, by the end of his career, he's fighting at heavyweight, and he's fighting legit heavyweight contenders. It speaks to
Absolutely.
his skills. You
Again,
know
to
what
his
I mean?
skills. So
But
it's
that's,
along the
but
lines.
that's gradually over his career. I'm
Correct.
talking about one jump.
No, you're right. It is
From
the more
fight to
dramatic.
fight.
Or
That's-
Roberto Duran, who made the
Who,
jump.
by the way,
From
began
like-
his career at 119.
But again,
Did he go 119?
Yeah,
yes,
I
he
thought
did.
it was 130.
No, he started at 119.
And he was a middleweight
He was fighting
champion.
at like,
That's crazy.
like junior
Did he
featherweight.
go
and
super
featherweight
middleweight
for
or
a
just
while.
middleweight?
Super middleweight.
Super, dude, that's crazy.
But he won a title
Duran.
against Barkley as a middleweight.
As a
right?
middleweight,
Yeah,
yes,
as a middleweight.
1989.
That's impressive.
But here's the thing.
And 5 decades down.
Yes.
Fought for 5 decades.
Yeah, and more than 100 fights.
That's
and
crazy.
These are things that no one's ever going
And
to do
sharp.
again.
And still sharp.
Oh, yeah.
I saw him in Saudi Arabia.
No,
He
he's
sharp
great.
still.
No, he's wonderful. But Duran didn't go directly from lightweight to welterweight to challenge Sugar Ray
Yeah, he had
Leonard.
fights.
He
Correct.
had
He
a
had some
number of
fights.
fights in between and gradually put on that weight. He had fights at 138, at 142, 145.
Same with Mosley before De La Hoya.
He had
Fought
3
with
fights.
Willie Wise,
Willie
Wilfredo
Wise.
Rivera.
Thank you. Very
By
good.
the way,
Yep.
moving on here. First week of May, Boxing Palooza 2024. We have Fatal Fury card, Times Square. We have Canelo Skull in Saudi Arabia. And then we have the Return of the Monster to the U.S. Which
All in one
event-
weekend.
Yeah, a Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Which one are we looking forward to the most?
For me, May 2. Which is weird. I would have thought
No,
it
it's a
would be
great
the
event. It's a
monster.
great event.
is.
But you need a strong enough dance partner.
I mean, when I
can't
want,
get excited about
if
this,
someone
dude.
just, if I want to see Barry Bonds, I don't want to see him hitting off a tee.
Right.
I want to see Major League pitching.
Yeah, and
You
he
wanna see
hasn't
Greg
been in
Maddox.
America in such a
Right.
long time. I think it's going to be a tremendous event.
I know Top Rank is going to publicize it and promote it right. It's going to be
A lot of
good
Japanese
group.
whales.
Oh yeah, no, it's going to be a scene. It's going to be an event. But why travel all that way and go through all that work for like a second round knockout?
Right.
You know.
One last thing, Doug. Couple last thing. Give us your best Michael Katz story, who just passed away.
Oh,
we had the honor and sometimes the grind of working alongside.
Man, it's hard to say because Katz was bipolar. I mean, to the extreme. Like one moment he's like your great uncle, and then the next moment he's a guy trying to get you fired.
Oh, dude, I don't like dudes like that.
Literally.
I know. Trust me. I was that guy.
But he knew it. Here's the thing. He knew it. I'll give you 2 stories. Okay, so he was in England when Tyson fought Julius Francis, I think, and it was a huge event. It was amazing. Like, you know, the Brits went crazy for Mike Tyson. Brits love boxing, but they love Mike Tyson, man. And you know, he knocks the guy out in 2 rounds or whatever. But just that scene and that excitement, you know, Michael Katz described it like, you know, when the Beatles came to America, right? It was like Beatlemania. It was Mike Tyson mania. So when he returned to Britain, Scotland in particular, to face Lou Savarese, this is in 2000.
Yeah, I remember that.
These are early months of House of Boxing. So we have a budget. We had the money to bring Michael Katz from the New York Daily News exclusively over to a .com, which was unheard of, unprecedented at the time. So Katz is saying, Doug, you need to push our owners to, you know, I'm going to be there, but you need like a video guy. We need somebody. We need to be getting like video footage because they're going to go crazy for Tyson because that's what they did in England. And I'm like, you know, Scotland and England are different. And he's like, no. We need somebody there. He pressed me. And so I finally talked to the folks who owned the company to fly this guy. I don't know if you remember Matt Foster.
I remember him.
He was
Absolutely.
a photographer. That's like, Matt, you're going to be a photographer, but you're also going to be a videographer. Just follow Katz around. He wants this. He's like, okay, I'll do it. So he flies over there, and as soon as he arrives, Katz will have nothing to do with him. He's like, who the hell are you? Get the hell away from me. Stop calling me.
Oh my
what are you doing?
God.
Turn that thing off. Stop filming him. He's
You're
like,
kidding.
this is what I'm here for. Get the hell away from me, kid. So I've got Matt calling me like, why did I come out here? This is insane. I'm like, I'm sorry. This was Michael's idea.
Oh,
Then,
that's far.
like, I'm going to talk to Michael. Well, I didn't have to call Michael. Michael calls me. He's screaming and cursing at me. Who the hell is this guy? He's like, that's the guy you demanded be there. I'm like, he said, I did? I said, yes, you wanted him there. It's like, well, why would you listen to me? I'm insane. Don't listen to me. I'm crazy,
my
kid.
God.
And I'm like, okay.
Oh, wow.
Duly noted.
He's
Next
crazy.
time-
So he probably got along with you great. You both crazy.
Oh, no, he was like, fire Kim. But then
so he has good.
he was like, if Kim writes this story about Emmanuel Stewart, I swear to God, either he goes or I go.
Right.
Katz
He wanted to write about it.
Yeah, he was territorial.
God.
If I'm writing about Emmanuel this week, Steve Kim can't. So I'd be like, if he does it,
God, Kim, what a dick.
No, Steve didn't give a fuck. And I'm like, okay, pardon my French. Steve would do it, and then he would lose his mind. He would threaten to quit,
then he'd
but then he would call me out, hey, that was a pretty good interview. I like that.
I came to respect Katz. There's other stories. We're running out of time here, but real quickly, Doug, I know you got plans. This magazine,
You like it?
Every
Yeah.
episode, every
Nice,
edition is like a collector's item.
How about the poster?
Oh my God! I mean, this goodies.
bomb.
Remember? Look
You
at
got
These are
little
beautiful.
comic
Connor
book.
Ben, Chris Eubank.
By the way, this press conference, they try to trash talk, but because their accents, are British, it was the nicest trash talk I've ever heard in my life.
You didn't.
They're so eloquent.
They're so
too articulate.
They're too
Like,
articulate.
guys, your vocabulary is way too high.
It was too articulate.
That's why they had to do the egg slap.
Well, it was
too
it was
crazy.
exciting. So obviously, every
Very good.
episode or edition is like a collector's item. There seems to be
100 pages, counting the cover, the highest quality paper.
And by the way, the soapbox is a
you know
must
what?
read.
I was going to say that. Quality writing, too. You're going to want to read it. Take it into the bathroom. Take it on the plane.
Well, this guy.
Read it in bed.
See, now you got
Yes.
some reading for your
I
visit.
do got
You'll
some.
learn. You'll learn about up and coming fighters you hadn't heard about. You'll learn about foreign fighters you didn't know
love it.
about.
And I love
the
having
fighters you
something
do
tangible
know.
in my hand.
The fighters you do know, you'll learn more about them.
And Doug, what some of the other plans you have for Ring that you can tell us about? Merch, some merchandise.
Oh yeah. I can't announce it yet, but we will have merch.
Oh, good.
It will be very high quality.
I'm ready for my shirt.
The distribution will be great. There's a lot. There's books
Ooh.
that are in the works.
And other things.
There's other things.
And by the way, finally,
Documentaries.
Mario, you got your Ring wallpaper now, right? You can
Yeah.
stop badgering me and Doug about this.
I was
You're
bugging
killing
out.
me.
You made me feel like
you thought I was snubbing you.
You made me feel like a chick, like I was getting blown off. I was like, what's going on? I just wanted the high resolution JPEG.
I didn't recognize your number.
And
I'm sorry.
he would say to me, he'd be like, fuck Mario.
I should play one of Mario's voicemails because
they're funny.
I know. I was like, yo, did I do something? I mean, what's going on?
I'm like,
You guilted me.
More than once, I was like, Doug, please return Mario's call.
I just needed the JPEG. But it's gonna be. I have in my gym a wall that I made into a wallpaper of the Ring magazine covers, which I think is gonna be real cool in my little boxing session.
Yeah,
so I
that's
think
a
you'll like
proper
it.
wall.
Yeah, it's a proper wall. It's gonna be cool.
Can't wait.
Man, I appreciate you coming. We could talk for like another hour, but I
can.
appreciate you coming anytime.
And guys, we just want to let you know this podcast is sponsored by Hustler Casino, open 24/7 and located just 15 minutes from downtown LA. If you love poker, then head over to Hustler Casino for the new Cash is King Poker Cash drawings happening every Monday. They're giving away a whopping $1,000 cash every other hour from 2 p.m. to 10 p.m. Play at Hustler Casino, located just 15 minutes from downtown LA if you want to win big. And finally, are you looking to get involved with 3 Knockdown Rule and sponsor our show? We have some spots available. Please email info@boxbid.io. Once again, that's info@boxbid.io. Boxbid is an online platform that helps professional boxers connect with their fans by providing exclusive Fight Week merchandise, memorabilia, and sponsorships. You can even buy a shout-out on boxbid.io. Boxbid handles our sponsorships, and we are proudly working with boxbid.io. Doug, we cannot wait for you to come back. When's your next travel, by the way?
April.
April.
The grudge match.
He will never fly on anything but business class by the time this job is due.
Very true.
Travel safe, my friend. And appreciate you coming.
And Doug, open door policy. Look forward to having you back again in a couple of months. On behalf of Mario Lopez, this is Steve Kim, and of course Tim Frazier. This has been the 3 Knockdown Rule, brought to you by Hustler Casino.